Okay, we're recording. Welcome to the Info Diet Podcast. My name is Michael Gimmerin. Today we're joined by Chance Lunceford. Chance runs one of the most eclectic podcasts I've ever been a part of and is generally a very interesting all-around guy. And I'm excited to have a conversation with him today about his information environment and sort of how he makes sense of the world. Chance, you have anything that you want to say before we get started?
No, you're in for a treat, folks. I'm a rare and spectacular genius, so buckle up.
I'm very excited to that. Let's dive right into it. So, Chance, you have one of the most interesting yet eclectic podcasts that I've ever come across. Talk to me about that. How did you come up with the idea? What is it that you're doing? Is it part of your sense making process?
Sure. So I started listening to podcasts a long time ago, right after they really got going, and I instantly fell in love with the ability to the found time idea was what was really attractive to me because I have this endless passion for learning, and I was able to further my education while I was doing other stuff that I had to be doing anyway. So it's like I'm getting a 2-for-1. And in the initial days of podcasts, it was almost entirely, to be honest, focused on education. And a lot of the places that were putting out podcasts were universities like MIT and Cambridge and some of these other institutions. And so you were able to get graduate level courses every single class in a podcast, video, and audio with notes and these resources. I'm like, I'm going to go to Harvard today and I'm going to learn about, this or that. And then I'm going to go to MIT tomorrow and I'm going to learn this or that. Somewhere along the way, the entertainment aspect drew me in as well. And I thought to myself all along, I can do this. I could do this. These people are just talking and these people are dorks, to be honest. Like, it's not like I'm not, but it's like Jad Abumrad's a super dork and he's a very talented guy. And, so it's like, I could do that. So one day I just started. I joined Twitter and I told people I'm going to do that. I'm gonna start a podcast. I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna do these things. And then I boxed myself into this corner. And so I started my podcast. And at first, to be honest, I was doing like trippy editing and I was trying to do what I've been doing with my Twitter, which is like messing with your subconscious a little bit by just putting things in front of you and making you deal with them. But nobody was really interested in that. And it turns out neither was I. It was too much work. So I just started interviewing people and I knew from the start, I don't want this to be like other things. I want it to be me. So I named it something stupid, just like nobody really ever understood how to say logos and trivial or what it meant or the idea behind it. And there were ideas and things behind it, but it was a buffer. Okay. It was a buffer. And then, but if I could attract you beyond that buffer, then I could have a very interesting conversation with you because there wasn't like, this is going to be a conversation about the 10 most popular questions or with a media focus or like, it's just this dude Chance is interested in me. And he didn't really tell me anything about what to expect about this interview. Go. And that's why I was able to have interesting conversations with people and why I continue to be able to do that is because I want to know you as a person. Sure, I got to know you because of a certain reason, your persona online, your business, your book, your just glaring, obvious demonstrations of genius, whatever the case may be. But now what's going to happen when we have a conversation? Because I'm a curious person and I'm open to you because I invited you on my show. And what are you going to tell me? And then that's basically it. And then the key is that the people who found value in my show, I tried to connect with them too and ask them to help me advance the popularity, the respect, the prestige of the show, but in an organic way. You are my friends. You like my show. If I invite John McAfee on my podcast, go tell him that you want to see him on my podcast too. And and then that's how that kind of thing happened for me. Is just my fans were my friends and were vocal about being, fans of my show. And that's how it worked out for me, to be honest. It was simple. And that's what I told people too. Like, I know I'm rambling, but the last thing is I told people all along, this is really easy. All you have to do is say, I have a podcast. I would like to talk to you, and be willing to be told no. I almost never got told no, to be honest. But when I did, it's like, okay, I just sent out 20 invitations, 19 of them accepted, and I've got a year's worth of podcasts if I want, so let's go.
That's awesome. And did your did your style or the way that you were running the podcast change, with the feedback from the audience? Like, did you start to lean into one particular thing or another?
Hmm. I ran into a sort of a crushing obstacle in this regard, honestly, that I'm trying to figure out how to deal with. Number one, I feel like I got more skillful as in just conversationalist in general, and in particular as a person who's trying to draw interesting information out of other people. I feel like I got really good at that, and I'm grateful for that to this day. And I feel very confident in things like an interview, say, or I I really don't have the kind of jitters that I might have had before about talking to a high profile person or in a high pressure situation in a conversation, because I've talked to politicians, and I've talked to famous people, and I've talked to influencers and all those people, and they're just people, and I'm cool, but what I'm just going to tell you, like I failed to make appropriate sense of some things in my podcasting realm, which is that I realized a little too late that I was being sort of led and pulled and groomed in a way by like some political types whose job it is to find people like me who have some burgeoning influence, and then to try to guide that influence in the ways they want it to go. And so that was part of the reason I was able to have certain guests appear and reappear on my podcast, even when it didn't really make sense. It's because it's like, oh, that's what's happening. And I had some people reach out to me and say, Chance, you should be careful who you're talking to and who you're connecting with and which direction you're going, because it's like, you should just pay attention. And it took me a couple of those warnings before I really understood, hey, they have some knowledge they're sharing with you, and you should be careful here. And I have not really returned to podcasting after I realized I was being sort of played for a fool. And that's one of the things I would really caution people is that ability that I have to come out of nowhere and just suddenly be everywhere. Nobody was prepared for me, but I was also not prepared to just suddenly have all this influence within my hands and pointed at me. I just didn't know what to do with it or how to be careful. And I had to step back. And it's been like a year now, more than a year now, since I've really consistently podcasted, because I'm trying to find the way to convey the values that I was trying to convey in the first place, and include the skills that I've built, and include the network that I've been fortunate enough to build along the way as well, and add value and meaning into people's lives. I was trying to from the beginning, and not get played a fool again. And I haven't figured it out yet. I'm trying to.
And see, like, I find that really fascinating because most people who become influencers or who get famous, they suffer from audience capture, where they start doing more and more extreme things, more extreme portions of their personality, because they really lean into that entertainment aspect for the audience. And what you're describing is that people saw what you were doing, and they were basically like, hey, this is a guy that we can use to push a particular agenda. And they would do that just by the kind of people that you would be interviewing, and then the topics that those people would naturally bring up. And as a result, they were basically like borrowing your audience to tell a particular story. And what I'm hearing is that that story was starting to get away from you, and that it wasn't your story anymore. Is that sort of accurate?
Yeah, it is that, and it's also, yeah. But I realized it. I realized it towards the tail end, and I tried to. I tried. One of the things I always tried to do was to, at least at some point during the conversation, take the conversation in a direction that you would have never expected the conversation to go. Whether it was heart to heart, whether it was, like trying to take it to a deep level, whether it was just some oddball question that didn't have anything to do with what you're known for, these kinds of things. And just trying to reveal your humanity was important to me. But some people, I didn't have the skills to do that with. Lawyers and, and people in the limelight and practiced at it. I just realized, like, these guys, I'm not willing to be such a corny or like polished, fraudulent persona. And in order for me to kick these guys off of their thing, I kind of have to play their game, because they won't play mine. They're just not going to play mine. And then if you have a relationship with them later, you know, um, you can make some headway there. But I just was like, do I want to do that? Do I want? And so here's my thinking, just to try to put a little positivity in this, because maybe that's not where we were going to go originally. I don't know. But I'm trying now to use my knack for creating potent connections within a network, and for seeing the potential within people, and to develop talents in various ways, through writing, through promoting like educational resources that people are creating, and these kinds of things, and then watching these people that I'm supporting and promoting and doing things together with. And then what happens between us is the interesting stuff that I can then continue to build on. I can podcast about, I can write about, I can develop communities or like conversations that continue on just past the ether into the real world, based upon stuff that I'm doing together with other people in reality. And then it's not just my curiosity, and it's not just me being at the whims of sort of that feckless spacey pursuit of my aimless interest. I still have that, but that's for me. If I'm going to share stuff with you, it should be valuable and it should be focused, so you can get something out of it. I think that's important, and it's a lesson I've learned. Is I wasn't really offering something consistent to people, and that was a disservice to them, I think.
You're talking about a disservice to your audience.
In this case, yeah, and because I wasn't focused in some way on offering them a particular kind of value that they could reliably come and get from me, besides just getting a kick out of me as a person, it, number one, allowed me to be railroaded by people who did have a focused interest in what I was doing that wasn't my best interests and wasn't the best interest of my audience. And then also, I just wasn't contributing enough value to continue to ask for 1 or 2 hours of people's time as often as I felt like asking for it.
Mm-hmm.
My time, I thought I was going to die last year, man. And my time has become infinitely more valuable to me since that. And I just don't want to ask for too much of people's time. An hour is a lot of time, half hour is a lot of time. Am I really going to deliver the kind of value that people are expecting to get out of that hour? And then can I exceed their expectations too? I really want to bring more to the table than just some bull. It's not enough to just like talk for whatever reason. I tell my kids, you don't need to talk if you don't have a reason to. Don't just make up a story to say it. My mental space is important to me. There are important things going on in there. I believe in myself and my ability to affect change in the world, important change through my actions and through my connections with people who believe in their own ability to affect change in the world. And I don't have time to for inanity too much, or for you to distract me with your stuff. And everybody's always trying to distract you with everything. And what are you delivering to me with, as a consequence of you distracting me? Because if you're not delivering something, it pisses me off. Stop pissing me off and just deliver something good to me. I'm trying to deliver something good to you. Let's do it together.
Yeah. No, it's a really fascinating perspective, right? I'm very curious. I've always been curious. So you were really focused, it sounds like, on delivering value to others, and ultimately you felt that because there was a lack of focus in what you were trying to do, that other people potentially could come in and make that focus for you. But I have to believe, as you did these interviews and you talked with people, that you learned something along the way, at least how to identify what people were interested in and what made them excited and all of these things. And I think that as as we're all like trying to make sense of what's going on the internet, whether it's via a podcast or following people on Twitter or trying to understand what's happening in the environment, that there has to be some set of tools that we can bring to bear so that we can have an understanding and so we can get something out of it. And what I'm curious to learn from you is if there was anything that you took away from your experience in podcasting specifically that you think would be helpful for people as they evaluate points of view or personalities or ideas or any of the above.
Yeah, I mean, you asked me at the beginning if it was, the podcast was like part of my sort of development or personal journey, or there was like a roundabout way of you asking me that. I don't remember verbatim what you asked me, but the truth is that part of what I wanted to do with these podcasts was to be able to have conversations with interesting people and have it with them in a way where they feel like they were glad they had that conversation with me. And I needed some incentive to be able to invite people to have these conversations with me. Like, how was I going to talk to Scott Adams, or how was I going to talk to Andrew Tate, or how was I going to talk to you? How was I going to talk to anybody that I talked to for the most part without having some incentive to offer them it? And the incentive was very straightforward. It's like, I have whatever audience I have, and I have my curiosity in you. Right now, I'm going to ask you these questions, and then I'm going to listen to what you said to me, and I'm going to try to recall what you said to me and tie it in to me trying to connect to you as a human, as a human being. I'm going to try to connect to you, and I'm going to try to do you the service of promoting the things that you're into and to try to draw the best out of you. I'm not interested in getting you. I'm not interested in trying to make you look like a fool. I'm not trying to, that's not what I'm about, because I want people to grow, and I want people to succeed, and I want people to surround themselves with the best of what's within them and the best in what's other people, and then work together on those things. And the more time that you spend working together on the stuff that you believe in, the less time you have to even consider spending time on the things you don't believe in. And if you invite your enemies or your opposition to work with you on the things that you do agree on, that's time spent, that's effort spent, that's money spent on the things that you do agree on, and they can't spend that time, they can't spend that money, and they can't spend that effort on the stuff that you are against. And so what I learned from the podcast is, if you want to catch people and bring them into your sphere, the best way to do that is to offer them something of value. And right now in the world, attention is hyper valuable. And if you have any attention, even if it's yours, but especially you have an audience of any size, 100 people, 1,000 people, you can say, I have the captive attention of 100 or 1,000 people, and I have curiosity, and I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to you, really what you say. And I'm not going to try to like force my viewpoint down your gullet right now. Maybe we're going to have a conversation next time where I'm going to have thought about what you said and really tried to understand actually what you said to me. And then I'm going to have some pushback, and I'm going to say, last time we had this conversation, you said these things to me. Number one, I want to make sure I understand correctly, but if I do, these are my thoughts. And if you can do that, people will respect you so much more than if you're like, I don't think that's right, I think you're wrong, and I think I'm right, and here's what I have to say. Nobody wants to hear that. And you know full well, Michael, that nobody's ever going to change their mind when you confront them like that. Like, it might serve the purpose that you're aiming at to confront somebody that way, but if your purpose is to change their mind to your side, that's the wrong tool for sure. And so if you can actually listen, if you can think about what's been said and try to understand to the best of your ability, and then to ask questions, and then to offer a counterpoint, it just incentivizes them to offer you a little bit of reciprocation and to offer you the time in the first place. And then you get a reputation for listening. You get a reputation for offering an interested audience. You get a reputation for maybe having some strong opinions and viewpoints, and even being willing to push back against somebody, but not willy-nilly, not without reflection, and not just to do it, not to just have a childish adolescent attitude of, I'm going to argue with you, but only when it matters, only when it's important, and you actually think you're right because you've thought about it and it matters enough to say something to the person anyway. Does it really matter? Do you need to argue, or do you just let people make up their own minds? And in the end, if you have an audience, you shouldn't be telling them what to think. You should be offering them the opportunity to think. And if they take you up on it, you've found a worthy audience. And that's part of it too, is not everybody's supposed to be your audience. Not everybody's supposed to agree with you. Not everybody's supposed to get along with you. And if in the conversation you find out somebody's an asshole, good. Now you know. And, like alerted, knowing who your enemies are, knowing who you disagree with, those are all important things. And you should know, and you should pay attention and not deny what you've learned. And that's what I would say, are those things are very important. And you don't even have to have a podcast now. You've heard them from me, and they all make sense, and just integrate them.
Yeah, it's true. It's such an interesting point, right? So if I'm hearing you correctly, and apologies if not, what you're basically saying is that your goal was, why are you laughing?
Oh, because it's like now we're having this sort of meta conversation, right, where we're both aware, like, oh, he just said this, and now I'm doing this, and but carry on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what I'm trying to make sense of the information that you're giving me, right? So that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to filter it through my own perspective to come up with something that I think would be valuable. But basically, what I think I just heard was that your goal was to establish some common ground and community with people, to see them as a person, and then have a real conversation with them about potentially their beliefs, and upon reflection be able to come back and say, just like you said, last time you said this and I thought about it, and I had some follow-up questions on it, and here they are. And that over time you could evolve a dialogue, and that by presenting that dialogue to people, then they could draw their own conclusions. So it wasn't like Chance said, I have this position on a particular topic, and this person came on my podcast and they gave a different position on that same topic, and I said, no, you're wrong. It was more integrative, right? You like really reflected on what they had to say, and then you tried to incorporate it into what you're working on. And then you said something really, really interesting for me, which was that it was kind of like you were running a denial of service attack on people that were maybe not holding the same positions on you on a lot of topics, and that by tying them up, talking about things that you did agree upon, you were giving energy, you were taking the attention of your audience, and you were pointing it towards something that you felt was a place where you could start building from with that person, as opposed to having sort of an adversarial conversation where not an adversarial beyond like a dialectic, right? So people ask questions, and then there's some amount of conflict that happens. But other people like just bring people on, they have sort of like for lack of a better term, like an ideological shouting match. And what you're saying is that we want to focus on what brings us together, so that we can move forward together as one. So like basically fighting the polarization that's happening.
Sure. I call it spreading the countervirus. And then whenever I say that on social media, I put a trademark emoji after it. And the point is, like, why are we having somebody else's conversation? You don't need to. Why are you having that conversation? We don't need to talk about whether or not you should cut off your parts. We don't need to talk about whether or not racism is bad. We don't need to talk about any of the things that are in the headlines. It's like, how about you step outside and look at your yard? Are you doing a good job taking care of it? I don't know. From my vantage point, probably not. So I'm spreading the countervirus of saying, what's important is your family. What's important is your garden. What's important is that you look within yourself and say, am I who I'm supposed to be? And if I'm not, how about I start there? And if I am, then how about I work on the people right here around me next? How about I help my family? How about I help my friends? How about I help the people that I actually love and have something to do with? And then if everybody's doing great in my circle, what about my city? How's that doing? Are my values being well represented in my city, in my community, in my neighborhood? Am I a good neighbor? I'll tell you something embarrassing. It's embarrassing to me, and I need to resolve it. I'm going to resolve it after this, because I'm saying it out loud. I have a neighbor who knows I don't know his name. And he says, how's it going, Chance? Chance, it's good to see you, Chance. He says my name like 6 times every time he says hello to me. And I'm like, hey, man. See, that's not me being a good neighbor. That's not me being a good neighbor. And I'm saying that out loud. I don't like the way it makes me feel. And you know the stuff that you don't like the way it makes you feel. How about you fix that? Why does who somebody else has sex with have anything to do with you? Why does why do you need to take money from me to support your ideological stuff? How's your home isn't sound? So take care of your home and don't have those conversations with crazy people. Why would you have a conversation with somebody that no side of the conversation will serve you? It's a smokescreen, man. Stop falling for it. Stop being a sucker. I tell people all the time, it's like, look, if it's put in front of you, it's put in front of you on purpose. And if it's on purpose, there's intent behind it. And that intent is to take your money and attention and power away from you and give it to somebody else. That's the whole thing. Stop it. Stop it. You don't need it. Focus on what actually matters to you first. And when you are a whole individual with a sound life in a functioning neighborhood, in a healthy community, then maybe you have something valuable to say about how we should all get along. But you can't prove to me that you know how to get along because you're not demonstrating it in yourself, in your home, in your neighborhood, in your community, in your state, in your nation. Don't tell me how to run the world. You don't know how to run your life. And if you want to offer some advice to people, master yourself. I have a 6-pack. I can do tons of pull-ups. I'm a good dad. I work hard every day. I make art. I try to serve my community by spreading my values into it, literally as I guerrilla garden, as I try to improve the areas around me, and I bring life and abundance into my yard, and I talk to my neighbors about the things that are important to me. I'm a proselytizer for gardening. And maybe that's obnoxious, but I'd rather be out here proselytizing for my values than arguing with you about whether or not you have the right ones. Because my neighbor will put grass clippings on his hillside rather than have goat heads up there. And I don't have to argue with him about that. I don't have to say, stop spraying your yard. I just say, consider putting grass clippings. It'll help your soil fertility and the goat heads won't grow back next year. And you know what? He did it. And the other neighbor, he didn't. And guess which neighbor's name I know?
The neighbor that did it. That's what I'm guessing.
Damn right.
Is that true? That's damn right. So the person that you don't know is the one who didn't take your advice about the grass clipping.
Look, maybe they'll listen to this one day, but I have a neighbor to the south of me who killed his hillside. I have my yard, which is life itself springing forth in great majesty. And I have a neighbor to the north who said, you know, Chance, you've got me thinking about things a little bit differently. I know that guy. I've had dinner with that guy. I don't know the other guy. I haven't had dinner with the other guy. I like him well enough. I don't have problems with him. But when I look and I see a dead hillside, I think we don't understand each other because that's antithetical to what I'm trying to do. And I need to find a way to connect with that guy. But I haven't yet.
But you haven't.
But he lives right next to me, so it's important to me. You know what I mean? And I don't have any problems. There's no problems. But I haven't gone out of my way to make friends with that guy yet. And yeah. I'll need to figure it out before I do, I guess. And maybe that's, you know, a cause for my self-reflection, but take from it what you will.
I mean, what's funny is that we're talking about some of the oldest values that you come across in all of literature, right? Which is basically clean up yourself, clean up your family, and then clean up those things that you touch every single day, and then just gradually expand the circle. And by doing that, by presenting that, by putting it out there, you are asking people to give their attention to something, but it's something that you obviously care about, and it's something that you feel is reflective of your values. And so in a sense that they're giving energy to your values, and so your values are basically spreading, right? And I Chance is being very literal, by the way. I know that he's a gardener. I know that he's an excellent gardener. He actually makes you make beautiful gardens, and but it's also a metaphor for everything else, right? Like there's so many people who consume on Twitter or consume the media through their television or their newspaper, and to your point, they don't have their own house in order. They don't have a stable marriage. They're not a good father. They don't have all these other things, and it's almost like the addiction to these other information things and the dopamine or whatever that they get from engaging on these pointless and meaningless conversations online, or at least being a spectator to them like you would a sporting event, it's not serving them. And what you're basically saying is that we have to refocus on what's important to us and then use that as our jumping off point to getting other people to do it, which is really like a beautiful sentiment. I mean, if everybody took the same perspective that you have on this, in that they really focused on cleaning up the actions they had responsibility for, they recognize that everything that's put out in the world is intent based, right? And in your case, the intent is that you want to show people what you think awesome looks like, and that it is, because it is awesome and it is aligned with this sort of like universal through time value system, it will be awesome for them as well. As opposed, and you don't do it by saying like you're wrong. You do it by saying like, this is what I'm doing and these are the results that it's getting me, and it's really, really great, and you should potentially think about that as well, right? Or maybe I'm adding the you should at the end there, but
Yeah, it's like that. And
it's fucking awesome.
it is that, because I believe in it all the way, bro. I believe in it all the way. It's my love being, this is the thing I keep harping on about gardening, is that it's not just the dirt, man. It's a perspective, and it's antithetical to farming. Do you mind if I just elucidate a little bit? I know we're kind of coming on the tail end,
but like,
I think this is an important point. Okay.
Yeah, if you time me out, I just want to say that being on your podcast was one of the only conversations that really changed things for me. And so from my perspective, you actually did have an effect on me. And now I want to hear about the difference between gardening and farming. So thank you for that.
Okay. Oh, hey, I love hearing stuff like that. I know that the differences that I've made in people's lives for the most part are very marginal, but 1 degree makes a big difference over the course of time. But the difference is, listen, in a garden, what you do is you pour yourself into it, and then it gives back to you. And then you give it back all of the excess and then some. You pour yourself into it continuously, and it just grows. It just grows, and then you learn the principles of growth and of life, and you align yourself with them because you're trying to improve this thing that you're a part of. And it does, for me, it started in my mind, but when I really started transforming how I looked at the world is when I started transforming the world, the planet, the earth, the soil. But the garden is that you put into it and you're not expecting a return. You just are getting it. But it's bounty, and it's just verdant, and it's there. But a farmer's intention is to extract wealth, extract from the soil and turn it into something else, right? So the soil provides, the sun and the soil provide, and then they take that and then they turn it into cash money. And then what do they turn that cash money into? Vapor, for the most part. So you're taking the bounty of the place that you live and you're turning it into nothing. That's the difference between a farmer and a gardener, as a gardener's focus is on improving the entirety of the system by contributing to it. And a farmer's perspective is to extract wealth, extract vapor from reality, and if you look at the farmers, if you look at a farmer in the United States, a very literal farmer, they're in debt up to their eyeballs, barely surviving, and the amount of money that they make is determined by the powers that be, by the seed companies who sell them the seed, the DNA is copyrighted, and by the government who subsidizes the markets to keep the prices just at the exact price that they can just barely keep these farmers afloat with their multi-million-dollar machines mowing down these corn and soy fields. It's like, that's the result of farming. If you want a garden, if you want to know what a garden is, walk into a healthy forest, walk around the edge, walk into the interior, and come back out and go, how is this different from that field over there? And explore those differences, and you'll understand what I'm talking about in a very real way, but then apply it to your life. The people in your life, garden them. The relationships in your life, garden them. Your job is a garden. Your hobbies are a garden. Your family is a garden. Pour yourself into them with your love and your service and the best of who you are, and everything around you will grow. And the things that don't grow when you pour love and goodness and life into them, that is a very important sign that something's very wrong there. And maybe it's a person that needs to not be a part of your life, okay? Or maybe it's like there's something that you don't see inside of you or inside the people that you love that is causing something to go wrong. And if you are consistent in your practice of gardening, of pouring your love and your attention and your service into the system, then you'll know it's not me, it's this. And what is this? And that is a safeguard that you will never experience until you know that you're always doing your best. If you're always doing your best, you're a gardener. If you're not, if you're just in it for what you're in it for, man, that's good luck with that. Good luck with that.
That is that's such a timeless and beautiful sentiment, Chance, and such an interesting way, for me to think about all the things in my life. Right, obviously, the idea of cultivating an information environment is a lot like gardening. Right, it's like you want to put energy into the things that you care about. You want to remove the things that are not helping you, the weeds, if you will, and then you want to reflect on if you're putting energy into something and it's not working out, what that's doing for you. And this conversation, even though you're literally talking about gardening, it's really good. I don't know, this is one of the better information environments, sense making conversations I've had. And if you're listening to this in the future, like really pay attention to what Chance is saying here, because I don't know, it's such a good metaphor. It's such a good place to start from. And you're absolutely right with the way that you apportion your time and your focus and everything else. I'm very blessed that we had the opportunity to speak again. And I hope that someday you'll be able to continue to cultivate your garden on the internet, because you do have an important message to share and an important work to do. And I know you said that you're doing this now as a second party, so you're helping other people develop their gardens, if you will, and then you're seeing the bounty that's coming from that and how they're making the world more beautiful. And it's really awesome to hear about. And I'm very grateful and thankful for you, Chance. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Those are very nice things that you've said about me, and I'm going to do my best to accept them, because as I was listening to you, it's like, yeah, that is what I'm trying to do. That is what I'm about. And I do feel like the reason I started speaking is because I felt like I had something to say. I'm working up to it again. There's a duty. There's a duty. If you really feel like you got a message, there's a duty that's attached to that. You must say it, but it means you must be a worthy messenger. And that's what I'm also working on. I don't want to be caught out. I must be a worthy man if I'm going to carry a worthy message. And so I'm ensuring that my life is worthy. And may God bless me in my pursuits. And may God bless you in your pursuits, Michael. And I feel like this conversation and the conversations that you're going to have are going to be a service to people. And I'm honored to be a part of it, my friend.
Thank you, Chance. Couldn't have said it better myself. All of the above. Once again, thanks to Chance for coming on today for the third episode. And we'll see you next time.